Welcome, everybody. Welcome. This is the Rig on Wheels show featuring Hello Retention, and I am your host, Kameel E. Gaines. And joined with me is the man behind Hello Retention, Merryl Gerhardt, and he is the president and co-founder of Hello Retention. So, of course, like we say every week, this is the show that is your go-to source for transforming your employee retention and your logistics for your logistics and trucking industry. In each episode, you're going to have expert insights, innovative strategies, and real world solutions. So, like we always say, Merrill only wants real world solutions here.
That's
And it's
right.
going to be about keeping your top talent and driving your business forward. So, we're going to today explore a crucial topic. It's going to be about building a positive company culture to improve retention. So let's go ahead and discuss how we're going to foster the positive company culture that can significantly enhance employee retention and best practices for creating and supporting engaging working environment for shaping your culture. Now, we do have a special guest, is Javon Wooden. And I'm going to take off my glasses so I can really read this really well. So don't talk about me because I'm either taking glasses on or taking them off on this show. But Javon is a sought after speaker, coach, podcast host, author specializing in emotional intelligent leadership and business practices. He is a veteran military branch. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
CEO and expert in emotional intelligence. He empowers leadership to build high performing teams, fostering and thriving workplace cultures, and achieve sustainable business growth. His insights have been featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur Inc., and other magazines. So thank you so much for joining us here.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for this conversation. And Meryl, I
Yes,
see that army back there. So
That's
cool.
right. That's right, brother. Brothers in the band here.
Yes,
yes,
indeed.
absolutely. And I do want to let everybody know that there is a QR code right there on Javon's name, and that's a link to his website in case you want to book him for speaking. You'll be able to link up with his podcast, of course, directly be able to search him for LinkedIn, and he has a book out as well as a book that he has for pre-ordering, right, Javon?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. So before we get into everything, I do want to go to our first commercial and then we'll get directly into our first segment.
At Hello Retention, we excel in building a stronger workforce for your logistics and trucking company. Our retention insight solutions keep your top talent engaged and committed. Through deep analysis and actionable insights, we help you understand and reduce employee loss, ensuring workforce stability. Hello Retention, your partner in workforce excellence. What will your workforce look like in 12 months? Visit helloretention.com or call 888-400-1722 to learn more and start transforming your workforce today.
You know what? And before we actually start into this segment, let's do this. Javon, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, I know that I told a little bit about you, but you are yourself. So tell us.
All right, I'll make it real quick. I don't want to bore everyone with who I am too much, but so I'm Javon Wooden, originally from Rochester, New York. Always got to throw that in there, let people know. I live in Houston now. I served in the Army for 12 years, did 3 tours, and I served. I was also in the corporate space with IT, cybersecurity. That was my background, but I realized that I wanted to do more. I wanted to do more with the people side of things. So I founded my organization, which is now called Bright Mind Consulting Group. It was originally called Live Not Loathe in 2017. And it was focused on helping others to overcome overwhelm and unlock their potential. And I initially wrote a book called Own Your Kingdom, which Kameel, you alluded to earlier. Own Your Kingdom, how to control your mindset so you can control your destiny. But I realized that there was another component there, because you cannot really have the proper growth mindset without having the proper emotional state. So I looked into that. I did a lot of research, and emotional intelligence and empathy really stood out to me. So that's what I do now with companies. I help them to be more empathetic and more emotionally intelligent with their leaders, and also go ahead and transcend and inject that into their cultures. So it's in an everyday operations.
I love that, because everything starts with the leaders and it trickles down. Definitely. And empathy is the name of the game, because we're in the people business, right, Merrill?
Yes.
That's right.
We say
Absolutely.
that definitely all the time. And thank you for joining us. And so now you live in Houston. We just went through this hurricane. Glad you made it on the other side. We on the other side, so that's good, right?
Absolutely. Same to you. Yeah, I know it was tough. Speaking of empathy, right? It took a lot of that, because when you go through these natural disasters, everyone has to kind of band together, no matter your differences, whether it's political, whatever your views are, right? You forget all of that, right? And you look to help your neighbor, help one another. So I feel like companies can learn from those types of circumstances and situations.
Absolutely. Thanks for pointing that out. Absolutely. So you did a lot of years in the Army. Thank you for that. And it was half of the time that Merrill did, because Merrill spent a whole lifetime.
Yeah.
A little too long, 24 years. That was a bit.
He said, I love it so much, I'm going past the retirement years.
Yeah. I'm like, that's the age of my son, 24 years. Like, that's a lifetime. Jeez.
Right.
So the title of this segment is The Role of Leadership in Shaping Company Culture. Okay. So now that we are back, Merrill, I'm going to start with you. From your experience, how important is leadership in shaping, like logistics and trucking company cultures, especially, nowadays?
Well, nowadays it's challenging as it could ever be, but I think it applies to all organizations, not just in the trucking and logistics space. Um, you look at it, even Javon here being in the military, you have leadership and they set the expectations and the tone of what they expect out of their subordinates. And in the civilian world, it's their employees, co-workers, supervisors, things like that. And if that expectation isn't set properly, then everybody that has responsibility and ownership to do the job is not going to get it done correctly because they didn't set it out there. And then there's an opposite effect of that as well, is you have leaders that and people. This has been used in the past, and I haven't heard this as much lately, but you have toxic leaders. They have this big head. They want this done, and they don't care how it gets done, and they have no empathy or concern on how it gets done. So that truck driver in our world is stuck out there on the road, hadn't been home in 3 or 4 weeks, because all they care about is the bottom line, how much they're getting, how many loads are being ran, and not caring about the person who's actually doing the job. So it starts at the top, and as long as it's portrayed and the leadership is demonstrating that and cares, then it trickles downhill to everybody that in the company that wants to take pride and do the right thing by the organization. And if you've got a good leader, that's going to happen. Otherwise, if you have a toxic leader, then nobody cares. If that leader doesn't care, who else is going to care about the organization? They're going to end up moving on and going somewhere else.
And I agree with that. And there is a difference. And I'm definitely, Javon, don't mean to cut you off, because I'm going to bring this right back to you. Because with you being an expert, being in the military, I'm bringing this home for you. And I'm going to build it up for you. I'm about to build it a whole thing up, right?
All right, send me the softball. So
Yes,
knock it out.
the whole thing. So what I especially when I used to be on the phone as a recruiter, right? I used to always say a lot that to be on the road as a truck driver is very similar as being in the military. Listening to my family talk about it, and my family that was in the military and then became truck drivers, they would compare that, right? So whether you're part of the truck driving family, it's like being in the military family, or you with the actual driver, right? So with saying that, Javon, there's a difference between a firm leader that has empathy, and then a toxic leader, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So tell us, kind of bring that all back around when it comes to what Merrill was talking about.
Yeah, I would say that, first and foremost, empathy, people hear that, especially in these certain industries, the military, trucking, construction, like empathy, that's soft, right? It's
Mhm.
not. It's actually the exact opposite, right? The strongest leaders are empathetic. Why? Because they're able to not just sympathize, which is feeling for that person. They're able to empathize, which is feeling as that person. And when you can feel as that person, you can kind of have foresight and say what resources would they need to be successful, what information do they need to be successful. If they say something to me, or if they call in, I don't need to know everything because I know that they're human, right? You focus more on the person, and when you do that, you're able to not just support them, but they feel empowered and they really want to work for you, right? So that toxic leader is the exact opposite. They're focused on the bottom line, right? They want to squeeze all of the margins they can. So they'll have someone on the road, even though they're not supposed to drive past a certain amount of hours. They'd be like, oh, scratch that. Go ahead and get 2 more hours because we need that to drop so you can pick up that other load within the trucking industry. My uncle was a trucker, so he always tells me the down and dark secrets, right, about how these things happen. And that's dangerous. It's just like the military. You start to make more mistakes when you don't feel supported because you don't want to report, oh, I'm a little bit tired today, didn't sleep well. You don't want to report maybe you messed up a load a little bit or whatever. You don't want to report those things because if you report those things to a toxic leader, they're not going to support you or try to help you figure it out. They're just going to either can you or they're going to try to take it out of your pay, whatever. They're not going to support you at all. Whereas an empathetic leader would be like, okay, things happen. Let's see what we can do moving forward. And there's a concept that I like from my guy, Jocko Willing, who's a former Navy SEAL. He talks about extreme ownership. The empathetic leader is going to take ownership and say, okay, how can we learn from this? So I put you in a better position next time, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the military, we always talk about after action reports. What did we do well? What can we improve on, and then what can we sustain, right? What can we just get rid of? What can we keep, and what can we work better? We're not going to say losses, we're just going to say improve. So that's how we need to look at it as leaders, because especially if as an organization with a lot of people, you have different personality types, you have different needs, everything's different, right? So you have to take that into account when you're creating your SOPs, when you're sending people out to do a job. Just check in with them, make sure they have everything in place. An empathetic leader does that excellently.
I'm gonna bring it back to you, Mir. Listen. This is making me emotional, and emotion is not weak because I'm a Virgo and I don't show weakness. But I am getting emotional because the synergy is so great with this, because everything that you're saying is exactly what Merrill preaches when it comes to Hello Retention, all the way down to the Hello Retention app, which is technology, and then the actual human being, the that picks up the phone and talks to the drivers for his clients. But what I like the most about what you said, and I'm going to say this throughout my organization and to my kids, they're going to get tired of this: extreme ownership, especially to my 17, about to be 18-year-old son. Extreme ownership. Because even if it wasn't all you, it's extreme ownership. Merrill, explain that to me more when it comes to the leaders, some of your logistics and trucking executives, and how Hello Retention is handling the extreme ownership part of it.
Extreme ownership. Everybody has a piece of the pie, and it could be a bigger piece or a small piece. The truck driver, he's got this one responsibility, or really more. There's a lot more things that go into it, but I'll make it simplified. Is that driver is responsible for leaving his home safely and coming back home safely and taking care of that load. When you're looking at it from a CEO perspective or a vice president perspective, they have more pieces of the pie and more ownership that they have to take care of. But there's also leadership that's been put in place because it's not a one man or woman show. Everybody has a piece of their pie, and it's important that everybody has that extreme ownership of their section, of their part of the organization, to one, mentor their subordinates, co-workers, and team members on how to do their job properly and effectively. And it resonates up and it can't come back down. And it's important that if everybody understands that from the very beginning, day one, when you start with a company, or if a company doesn't have that in place, it's not easy to, my father-in-law used to say, you can't turn a ship on a dime, especially a big ship. It takes time to make that full circle to get there. So if an organization doesn't have that ownership at first, or extreme ownership, then they need to start focusing on those things and empowering their leaders to be able to do those types of things, make those decisions, coach, teach, and mentor their co-workers, team members, and subordinates. In the corporate world, we don't look at it as subordinates. It's more of a military aspect, but it all kind of works. We're all team members, and there's no I in team. So as long as we try to put those things in place, then we're going to be successful. On the Hello Retention side, when we identify different things, what we're doing is we're being a voice and a tool for that driver to escalate and be. We take extreme ownership with that driver. We're on the phone with them and finding out what their concerns and problems are, whether it's a load, home time, pay. They have family issues, and now we're escalating that up to the person that should have the most extreme ownership in that situation, so if they're aware of it, because maybe they aren't aware, and if they aren't aware, we want to make them aware so they can turn around and in turn get back with that driver and help them through that situation, whether it's a emotional situation, is it a labor type situation, or whatever the case is, and at least put that tool in place so that driver gets what they need, the fleet manager gets what they need, the company gets what they need, and now everybody has ownership and is making things happen, and people feel cared and valued.
I love that. Javon, did you have something else to say to that part?
Yeah, I love everything Merrill said. And I would say that, for those listening, they're like, I'm trying to turn that ship and it's big, like Merrill said. Start with transparency, because that's really one of the easiest ways you can have that extreme ownership. If that trucker says, hey, I would love to get paid more or spend more time home, it's like, hey, if you can't do it right then and there, hey, we can't do it now, but we heard you. We heard you, and we're working on that now. And here's some of the things that we thought about, right? Just be transparent, and then maybe include them in how you come up with those solutions. Because a lot of your employees, they just want to be seen, heard, and valued. We talk about empathetic leadership. It's about allowing them to take some ownership. If you allow them to say, okay, this is what matters to me. These are my values. I value that family time. I value, a little bit more pay. I value whatever. And you start getting some of those common themes around it. Then you can kind of start developing that thing and say, you know what, transparently, we're not going to be able to do this quarter, but we're working towards it. And here's some of the things we're thinking about doing. Right? It doesn't have to be the grand change immediately. That's not what we're talking about here, because it takes time. We understand that.
I agree with that. And I definitely 100% agree with that. It takes time for any type of change. Absolutely. And with saying that, let's definitely go to another commercial break, and we'll be back shortly, everybody.
At Hello Retention, we excel in building a stronger workforce for your logistics and trucking company. Our retention insight solutions keep your top talent engaged and committed. Through deep analysis and actionable insights, we help you understand and reduce employee loss, ensuring workforce stability. Hello Retention, your partner in workforce excellence. What will your workforce look like in 12 months? Visit helloretention.com or call 888-400-1722 to learn.
Okay, so welcome back, everybody. Now, Javon, I had to go to quick commercial because Javon he was psychic. Okay, he was psychic because the next segment is what practices for creating a supportive and engaging work environment. And that's kind of how you were steering everything. So what I want to do is talk about that. Like, what are some of the good practices or best practices? And I know, as you were saying, you can't do change overnight, but give us the top 3 to 5 that you can leave us with, that you would encourage an executive at a logistics or trucking company, especially trucking, because you are very familiar with that. What can they do?
I mean, the first thing, and it's something that we hear all the time, is defining the why. Like we know that we're about the bottom line. We know we're about money, because or else we wouldn't be in business. But
Right.
the why in this case is, why does a caring culture matter? Right? Why does this empathetic leadership matter? What will it get for you? Right? And that why, we talking about hello retention, right? Why can be, higher retention. Turnover costs a lot if you want to tie it to dollars, right? And we also know that there was just a survey that went out, the latest from Gallup, said that lack of empathy, right, or engagement, in this case, we're going to call it employee engagement, 77% of people are disengaged at work in some way, shape, or form. And that is leading globally to $8.8 trillion a year in lost productivity and employee turnover. So if that is not a strong enough why for those listening, I don't know what is, because what's happening is people would rather go out and try things on their own or figure it out than to stay at an organization that is causing them burnout, causing them stress, keeping them away from what really matters to them. So define that why. What does it lead to for you, for your organization? The second thing is, for your leaders, they need to mirror the change. They cannot be saying one thing and then doing another. So if you're going to say that we're going to create, we're going to change the culture here, and we're going to really invest in our people, and then you're still driving them to the burnout and driving them to be stressed and the higher hospital bills because you're making them do too much, they're sleep deprived, whatever it is, you're not going to be successful, right? So mirror that change. And mirroring that change could be as simple as, checking on your people that are your immediate direct reports. If you do not meet with them, if you don't know what's going on with them, then you are already failing, right? So set up some time to talk to them, and not just about their job role. Talk to them personally. Like, hey, how can I best support you? Is there anything you're seeing at your level that we could be doing better? And I don't mean waiting for the survey to come out, because the survey is insufficient. You need to actually have these conversations. Merrill knows we do that in the military, right? We'll have these meetings with our direct reports, just to ensure that we're doing what we need to do as a leader. And you'll get some great feedback from that. So make sure you're paying attention to that feedback. We don't need expensive technology to get important feedback. But make sure that, number 3, make sure you have a great feedback system, and that you're paying attention to that, and you're incorporating that in everything that you're doing. I'll give a fourth one. I know you said the top 3, but the fourth one really is the recognition and appreciation piece. You need to make sure that your people feel that you really value them. They're the ones that drive the business, that make it possible to do whatever you're doing with your organization. So make sure you recognize them, and the rewards do not have to be monetary. Learn what works best for those people. Those folks that said they want more time, maybe you give them an extra day off because they did some great work. If you can, may not be immediate. Again, you may say, hey, towards the end of the year it's a little bit slower, so we'll give you an extra day because you've been hitting it hard, right? Those other folks who said they want the pat on the back in front of everyone, maybe a town hall, you'd be like, hey, we're recognizing some great leaders every month or quarterly. We recognize certain people that align with the values we have as our organization. And your values should be everywhere. Everything you do should be communicating those values. So those are some quick wins that you could really incorporate immediately that are best practices for, changing that culture to be a caring culture so that you can drive your profit and productivity?
Let me tell you, I'm about to start running through. I'm about to start running. Okay, I'm trying to tell you, and Merrill knows this. I feel like I have paid Javon. Okay, I'm trying to tell everyone. Now,
Hey,
people that
we can make that happen.
I know, right? People that watch this, and especially the ones that know me. Okay, so I
Her
talk about
brain's running. She's going to call me this evening, and she's going to be on the phone for 2 hours with exploding.
I love it.
But I
I
talked
love it.
at the TMSA on the panel with two other extremely brilliant women, and we talked about the other three P. We talked about the three Ps. It was people, profit, and purpose, and which one went first. And I said profit, and the reason why, and profit doesn't always mean money. It can mean some type of figure that is your bottom line. But think about it in this instance, like you said, is money. Because if you're not having empathy and engaging with your people, your bottom line is going to be affected. And the way is they're going to leave. And that goes across with any industry. It's affecting ours because we are in the trucking, logistics, and supply chain. So that is what's partial to us. But if you're in something else, we respect your industry too. But logistics and trucking is my thing. So that's what we talk about. But the why with anything, and the why when we talk to executives, your why is your profit. You do not have time to replace people, your great people, all the time. And when Javon said, make sure you have a feedback system. Your feedback system and your retention system is hello retention. And don't wait on those surveys, those check marks that don't work, because you're only going to get 8 to 10% back, which means you only care about 8 to 10%, which means that you're only doing it for a check mark, which means in turn it's not going to work. And we realize it's not working. The old school days of just recruit to outpace your turnover, those days are gone. Younger folk are coming in the logistics and the transportation industry, and they do not work like my generation and older did. That's a fact.
What are you trying to say, Kameel? I'm old.
We work hard because we were told to work hard.
Or do more push-ups.
My generation and younger, regardless of the thought, they think a little different, and I'm a bit jealous. Okay, I'm a bit jealous because their thought is, why would I do that? It doesn't make sense, right? So that is the reason why when Javon said it does not always have to be that it's money involved. Like, for example, Darcella May, that handles a lot of the things for our podcasting, right, Merrill? She might celebrate different holidays than us. So she doesn't need Labor Day off in September because her Labor Day is a different day. So how about you just get a day off and you choose what day it is?
Exactly.
Okay. So I love the fact how Javon said, just start whatever now, because that doesn't take money, but it will affect your bottom line in a good way. I love it. Merrill, what do you have to follow up back after my preaching? Because I went into the sanctuary. I'm just, but Javon, I mean, I cannot, I'm going to order your book, and then I cannot wait for your next book, because this is beyond great, and it touches our industry so very well. I really wish you would niche You need to niche this for our industry. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I'm just trying to
She's
make you
biased.
$1
She's
million.
biased.
Hey, what I say to that, Kameel, is this: what I'm talking about applies across industries, right?
Mhm.
How it's applied, being prescriptive is not necessarily beneficial because every company is different within that industry. But what I
Right.
will say, what Merrill, what myself are talking about today, can be applied to all. And the organizations listening, the leaders listening, I love this analogy. I don't know who said it, but they were talking about say a snow day, right? They were talking about how typically the snow removal company starts with the stairs, right? But if they started with the ramp, right, and they cleared the ramp first, everyone could go. And that's how we need to think about what we're doing with our benefits. That's how we need to think about what we're doing with our retention policies, with our onboarding, everything. We need to look at how we can think about all. All right. For instance, when we do onboarding, right, as an organization, most companies do not plant that person with someone who's very well versed in that organization, right? They don't do a mentor, they don't do a sponsor, they don't do any of these. But if they did, right, that's going to expedite no matter if that person is a go-getter, a high achiever, or someone who struggles a little bit in picking things up. That is going to help all. And it also helps that organization because they're spending less dollars on wasted training, right? Because they have that person who's very well versed on what needs to be done for that role. And they can listen real time to say, how can I best support you as you get onboarded in this organization? A lot of companies lose people before they even get started because that onboarding process is critical for their development.
You know what he's talking about? In orientation.
Station.
Merrill
Exactly.
is a very good person to talk about this. I am not going to be able to communicate it properly, so I want Merrill. Merrill, can you talk about how, with your data and your technology that you use, how you're able and have been successful in helping trucking and logistics companies help their talent that they've been hiring match them up with how people learn? And that's in the beginning, in
In
orientation. Can you
It is
talk
in
about that?
orientation. It even starts ahead of time with the recruiter.
Okay.
So,
Right.
many times the recruiter is the face of the company when someone's applying. And this is any company, but in logistics and specifically in transportation, the recruiter's talking about a driver, bringing a driver on board. And they're talking about their culture, and I'm gonna use Mesilla Valley. I love using Mesilla Valley because they take the time to mirror the changes. They want to know the why. They want to know the feedback, and by doing that and using us as that feedback system, they're making changes. So when I look at Mesilla Valley and the orientation and the recruiting staff that they have, they're very well knowledged in their company. Most of those recruiters have been there for many years. And then when that driver actually makes it into orientation, what's really unique is those instructors that are in those orientation sites from Mesilla Valley, they have been drivers for that company. They've driven, they've done it, they know it, and they understand it. So when they're speaking to the orientation class and they're hitting all the major points and getting that driver acclimated, because it's a new relationship between the new employee, the driver, and the company, they're giving them all the tools that they need to do their job as effectively as possible. And in the orientation staff, they do a great job of letting these drivers know, hey, if you run into any problems when you leave here, call me. Let me know.
Yes.
Let me get back to you. Let me
Mhm.
help you. Let's get you in for some additional training. And Mesilla Valley does that very well. When a driver's struggling with a tablet issue, maybe it's just because it's generational type thing. For me, there's certain things that I don't understand, so I have to seek help from somebody else that does understand it. But when a driver's in that situation, they say, you know what? All right, we've done these type of things. When you come back in, let's route you in. I want you to come by our office and let's sit down with you one on one and get you through that piece that may causing you problems or issues or frustrations. It's like any equipment. You ever call the cable company and your dish is not working or your satellite box is not working? The number one thing they always ask is, is it plugged in? I mean, it's just something simple like that. So in the Sea of Valleys aspect is they've done the troubleshooting over the phone. Well, now let's bring you in. Let's reset you. Let's replug it back in and start from scratch. So we know that you have the tools to be successful out there on the road. And that time in mentorship and developmentship means a lot to a driver, instead of just being like, hey, figure it out, or get with another driver and see if they can help you.
When saying that, you all are just perfect for each other. I think I feel like I did a good job here. This is just a great synergy. This was excellent.
We agree that she did a phenomenal job.
That's right.
This is good. It's even better than I could have imagined. But let's go ahead to commercial, because you spoke of recruiters, Merryl. So I want all of the transportation executives and logistics executives to know what third-party truck driving recruitment agency they need to call in order to get their talent resolved.
And let me add this real quick before you go there. That third-party talent agency, I can tell you, they are not app slingers. They're out there to do it right for the company and not waste company's time, energy, or resources, and get them the qualified driver they're looking for.
Absolutely.
Struggling to find the perfect CDL truck drivers for your fleet? Your search ends here. At ATG Recruiting, we specialize in connecting trucking companies with top CDL drivers. Visit atgrecruiting.com and discover our comprehensive recruiting services. Whether you need a steady stream of CDL driver applications or pre-screened, qualified drivers that meet your specific criteria, we have you covered. Save time and ensure quality by working with experts who understand your needs. Our tailored solutions ensure you get the right drivers in your trucks, keeping your fleet on the move. Visit atgrecruiting.com today or email us at info@acrecruiting.com. ATG Recruiting, your partner in driving success.
Okay, so welcome back. I want us to definitely talk about, in this segment, some real world examples of successful cultural initiatives when it comes to implementing at the different companies. So Javon, I know for you it's across the board. Merryl, for us, it would be logistics and trucking companies. I am really big on diversity. Okay, so that is going to be our background, our educational, where we come from, our zip code, all of those different things. I believe that we need to bring all players to the table so we can engage and grow the companies and all of that type of stuff. So, for an example, I'm going to throw out what I feel like is a great successful initiative. How Darcella is in the Philippines. She helps out greatly. I feel like she is a goddess of all things. And because she doesn't, for an example, celebrate Labor Day in September, her Labor Day is another day. She wouldn't get Labor Day off in September. She'll get it off another day. So instead of even that day, I just say you have a day off, right? So it's not necessarily that I give her Philippine holidays off unless she wants those specific days off. She just has those days off, those amount of days off through the year. So she feels seen and she's able to use them for stuff like her brother's graduation. It was her mother's birthday and her brother's birthday. And it was 3 days and she was able to tack it on to the weekend. And with that, she didn't miss out on any pay. Rig on Wheels nor any of our clients even knew anything had happened or that she was gone because it never interfered with business. So it's something that we implement in our Rig on Wheels. The Rig on Wheels broker and recruitment services is the employment agency side, and then the Rig on Wheels show is the media side. But what I'm trying to say, we're very diverse. So that is a success for us culturally, and it's cultural in our company. That's our company culture is diversity, right? We bleed DEI within our company, right? And it allows us to grow and understand and brings different things to us. So let's start with our guests first because we have home training, right?
It's cool today.
Right, we do today. So, like, what other things can executives do? And you can name as many as you can think of. I don't want to say 3 to 5 or whatever. I know that that's the proper thing to say, but that they can have in their culture. It doesn't have to be diversity or anything like that, but it could be in ABC agency's culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That
absolutely.
successful.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one thing that I recommend with all of my clients when it comes to creating a caring culture that leads to everything we're talking about today is identifying ambassadors that evangelize your brand. And I like to do it internally and externally. So that's employees and clients or customers, whatever you like to call them. And the organizations I work with, one specifically I can tell you is they're called US Power Pros here in Houston, and they do like generator services and electrical contracting work, right? And what they've done is they've identified brand ambassadors who are their employees, and they've tied whatever incentive that, like I talked about before. So if they want days off, if they want a bonus, whatever, they've tied the incentive to them getting X amount of reviews or them getting X amount of posts on socials. And that has made it fun. One, right? It's a friendly competition among those ambassadors within that organization. Now they're like, hey, I bet you I can get more more people to like my post or more people to engage my post. I bet you I can get more reviews when I go out and install the generators this month. So it just makes it fun, but it also emboldens the company culture, right? Because now they feel that camaraderie, but they also feel like, I'm a part of this thing. I'm driving the change. I'm representing this organization, and it becomes a part of them. So they value the company just as the owner values the company. And then on the client side, right, they have people on social media who they market their Facebook group to say, oh, they're managing it for them. So they'll say, oh, we're doing X thing in the park. We're doing a sponsorship for the local baseball team, etc. So they've created that to evangelize the brand. The other thing that I like to see, and Apple and a couple other companies are now doing this. Kameel, you mentioned DEI initiatives. I love organizations who have that transparency. So they're posted on their website. We have this percentage of people of this gender, of this demographic, etc. And I like that because they're taking ownership to say, hey, we still have a ways to go. We don't have as many people of Native American, Black, and Latin descent or Asian descent, but we're working on it. And I like to see that from organizations because it means that actually matters to them. They're putting out for the world to see, not because they want to be judged, but because they also want to be held accountable. And I think that is one of the strongest things you can do for whatever initiative you're saying. If you want to reduce your carbon footprint, put that on for all the world to see. Let the world know that is what matters to you, and stand behind it. I think that is some of the greatest cultural initiatives that I've seen from various industries.
I love that. That is good. Please let trucking be your niche. We are adopting you within our industry.
Hey,
That's it.
That's it.
You're one of us. That's it. Right, Merryl?
That's right.
It's
unique when he talks about the DEI piece. Coming from the military, and Javon's been in the military, but I was all on the recruiting side of the military. And even before I was on the recruiting side, being an infantryman and a field artilleryman, it didn't matter where you came from. If you were white, black, purple, green, we were all brothers in arms. We all wore the same uniform, and we all had each other's back. It didn't matter if you were from New Jersey, Florida, Guam, Puerto Rico. We were all in the same organization. We were sleeping in the same barracks, sleeping in the same woods, and fighting for the same country. And it's interesting to see how that kind of that movement, I want to say it's always been around in the military, but now it's starting to go into corporate cultures. They're wanting to include those type of things. And then from the recruiting aspect, being in the military recruiting, they were always looking to have that diversity, and diversity's come a long way in the military over the years, to where in the recruiting, they said, hey, we can only have X amount of these for this position, X amount of these for this positions. And as a recruiter, we'd always joke, oh man, the boss wants me to go out there and find one brown-legged guy with no hair and that can jump out of a plane, because they were that knee deep into, hey, we need more minorities in these types of fields, whether it was nursing and not just being a cook or transportation, but they were trying to build up the diversity in all kinds of different job fields. And those were the tasks that we were put on to go out there and sell that position, encourage that type of movement within the military. Talking about other things and real world examples of how logistic companies have improved their retention rate with just some cultural initiatives. I've got a client of mine we currently work with, and one of the unique things that they've done for years, and I'm surprised more trucking companies don't have this. They actually have a chaplain on staff that's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And when that person, driver, employee, it doesn't matter when the organization calls in, they're anonymous. It's like client privilege type thing, like you're talking to a lawyer. That chaplain is not going to say, hey, I talked to your VP and he's having a bad day, or I've talked to this employee, they're having some financial troubles or emotional family type things. He's just counting that ticker. Yeah, I've spoke to 10 employees this week, and it's not looking good, but we're working through coaching and counseling and getting them the resources to put them in a better spot so they can perform their jobs better. Because when things at home aren't going right, then it sometimes bleeds into the workforce and to their daily work job. And then another one is, there's another client that I'm familiar with, that they actually have a counselor therapist on staff. Chaplains are kind of the same, but these are licensed therapists or counselors. And one of the analogies he used was, many companies may say, well, if you're feeling down and out, or, and you need therapy, well, you got insurance, we paid for it. Why don't you schedule an appointment and go see that person? Mm-hmm. But in this case, they bring that person to them, and it costs that employee absolutely nothing. And again, it's anonymous. So they're able to get that pressure and relief off their chest, so they don't have those meltdowns or not efficient employees. So those are just some things there. And then the last one I want to use is Mesilla Valley does a great job on using social media to recognize employee appreciation, whether it's employee milestones. They're letting them know, hey, benefits are coming up. They're always putting out on their social sites the different types of things and recognizing employees for their achievements. And one of the other things that they do is they have that driver appreciation every single quarter. And I have not been able to get to one yet. I hope I do at some point, but it is like a huge jamboree party where drivers come in, family members are coming in, they have vendors, and they're giving away that car every quarter for the driver that has the best mile per gallon. But it's a camaraderie thing where they're all there together and they're all celebrating each other for the achievements that not only did the employee have for the company, but the achievements that the company had. And Mr. Royal Jones does that very well over at Mesilla Valley. And drivers look forward to those kind of things, and employees look forward to that in general.
I love it. If Terrell, we want to go to our next commercial, but I do want to talk about that. I love that cultural, how companies are building their own culture. That's building your own culture and your own tradition. And it can't be matched at any other place. That's not something that can be copied. Even if somebody else does the same thing, it's yours, right? So I love that. Because we're coming down on, our last little bit. But if you can go to our next Hello Retention commercial, that would be great.
At Hello Retention, we know that the key to a strong workforce is understanding each individual's needs Our personalized workforce support keeps your team engaged and committed through meaningful, one-on-one connections. We provide targeted strategies based on direct communication to reduce turnover and strengthen your workforce. Hello Retention, your partner in workforce excellence. What will your workforce look like in 12 months? Visit helloretention.com or call 888-400-1722 to start building a stronger team today.
Okay, so welcome back, everybody. What I want to do is, this is always the part that I want to talk about future trends. So, Merrill, okay, you're the future guy. You look into the future, your crystal ball.
I need them lottery numbers.
That's absolute fact. What are the future trends that you see when it comes to the company culture that's kind of going to go forward? Because we talk about everything when it comes to future and trucking, right? So when we got the autonomous trucks and everything, and we got AI, we got everything going on. How can we keep the human side of things?
Communicate. As Javon said, being transparent, whether you can do it now or later, or if you can't do it at all, at least communicate that to the employee, the team member, coworker. Communication is key. And as you mentioned, technology does a lot of great things for us.
Mm-hmm.
It puts things in our hands. But at the same time, we have to communicate. And if it's a fleet manager, they need to be communicating with their drivers on a daily basis, and not just about the load or the job. As he says, you got to know who they are. You got to understand if they have a family, do they have kids? Knowing those things helps an employee feel appreciated and know that their boss and their manager are looking out after their best interest, and in turn, that employee is going to do the same thing. We can use all the technology in the world, but if we're not being human to one another and having empathy and understanding of what each person's going through or doing well or not doing well, then we set ourselves up for failure, and no success comes along from that.
Love it. And Javon, like, literally, what do you feel the lasting words of that? How can we prevent technology? Oh, no. I got to spin. Nope, that's too easy for you. No.
But you don't switched it up now.
Yeah. How can we use technology to give us a human touch?
Yeah, I mean, technology cannot give us a human touch because technology fails to have emotional intelligence and empathy, right? So I would say leverage technology to augment, not replace. If a human needs to be there to do the job, let that human be there to do the job. If it requires emotion, if it requires the touch that technology cannot do, keep a human there. Just allow it, like with AI, allow it to make that human more efficient and effective. And that's what I see in the future. A lot of companies have tried and have failed. If you call a company now, it's really hard to get to a human these days, right? But that is the most frustrating thing I see right now, because they have you go through this long call sheet where if someone just picked up the phone, instead of spending 2 hours trying to figure it out as the customer, I could have talked to someone in 10 minutes and gotten it done, right? So the difference is going to be in those organizations that understand that the human touch is a differentiating factor now, because everyone is becoming over reliant on using technology. And we're, to be honest, as a tech guy, we are not quite there yet. It's still in this infantile stages. So we have to understand that and make sure that we do not forget about the human element, because that is what's going to separate no matter what industry you're in. That company that's doing great and that company that may not be around in 10 years.
And I
got to add to that real quick, Kameel. And that's where Hello Retention comes into play.
Yes.
When we're doing the retention service for these companies, they're calling that 800 number or that direct number, and they're not having to dial 1, 2, 3, press 0, get rerouted back. When they dial, somebody's picking up that line. If they didn't pick up the line, they're leaving a voicemail because that person happened to be on the phone, and those voicemails are not full, and they're going to call that driver back immediately and let them know. And even with my retention reps, they'll let them know, hey, I was just on the phone helping one of your team members. What's going on with you? What can we help you with today? And they take pride in doing that job. And it's an extension of the company, but they feel like they're on the same team as we are. And we are.
And that's
Zero
why
doesn't
you are the expert, Meryl, because you
Yes.
get it. See?
Yeah, you get it. And zero
Just keep
doesn't
it
even
simple.
work anymore.
Keep
I
it
tried to
simple.
do zero. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. But Javon, this has been really an honor, and we are so glad that you came on. But we're going to do something a little different, and I do want everybody to scan that QR code. But I want you to talk about your book a little bit. But Terrell, I want you to put up the screen. So if you can basically tell us about this book, because we want everybody to go out and get your book right here. Own Your Kingdom.
Yeah. I appreciate that and giving me sharing your platform so I can speak about this. So Own Your Kingdom, How to Control Your Mindset so you can control your destiny is an implementation guide. It is lessons learned for myself of overcoming severe depression and PTSD after my last deployment. And it's really applicable to leaders because it helps you create that action plan. If you do not know where to start and everything we're talking about, you got to start within. And this book is going to allow you to do that, allow you to forget all the predetermined and preconceived notions that you may have, allow you to start with a clean slate. And really start to see things a little more clearly. As a leader, clarity is the most important thing, right? So this is going to help you get there and help you create that action plan so that your organization can thrive no matter what is going on in the economy or the world.
That was perfect. Love it. And, absolutely. We're glad you wrote the book. Mental health is so important, and I'm glad you just have the book for steps and you're willing to share. That's the part right there. But again, we know that you need to drop off. Merrill and I are just going to say our last little bit to everybody. But thank you so much. And if you're willing at a later time to come on, because that was amazing.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I love what you're speaking about on this platform. So just let me know when, and I'm honored to be back.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Javon. We'll talk soon.
Talk soon.
And Merrill, look at there. So I mean, it was like as if he was the yin to Hello Retention's yang. I mean, I know I mess up with saying sometimes, but it just seemed like it was just going right along. But maybe it's because Hello Retention makes sense for the logistics and trucking industry, and what he was saying was the common sense that we needed to hear.
Absolutely. Yeah, he brought us some valid points and perspectives that will help any organization, but especially since we are specializing and all our energy is focused in the transportation and logistics space, they apply there as well. And it's just a matter of executing it or having those conversations with me or you or whoever to kind of navigate. And as he said, create an action plan. As I said earlier, you can't turn a ship on a dime. You got to start somewhere small, and then you constantly build on that opportunity and that resource and make the organization better from the top down and from the bottom up, because you need all pieces to be synchronizing and singing the same sheet of music, if that makes sense.
And the thing is, Hello Retention is an extension of your team. It's a part of your team. And like my colleague, the CEO of trucktractortrailer.com says, the best team wins. So you have to literally figure out what game you're playing here, and we playing the profit game over here. I don't know what y'all playing, but that's what it's for. And we want to change lives. We want people to be happy where they are in their season.
It's funny you say that. I've always been taught to leave things better than I found them. You know, when it comes to picking up, there's litter on the side of the road. I walk by, well, let me pick it up and throw in the trash. People don't ever pick up things and throw in the trash, but leave an organization, a company, a relationship, leave it better than you found it. And if you do that, this world will be a better place, and places will be, you will enjoy working for the organizations that you work for, and you want to stay there. You know, there's a generational shift where folks don't stay at companies for 10, 15 years because of, you know, a number of different reasons. But I don't like to be that job hopper. I want to continue to master my craft and leave the organization, or in this case, the industry of transportation and logistics, better than it was when I got in it. And I think a lot of people have that same value.
I love it. I love it. Especially, we eat and breathe this organization. I don't know what's going to happen when we decide to retire, because who we talk to, all my friends are here. So
yeah, it'll be a different show. It'll be called the Rigs on Wheels after the fact.
Right.
These young bucks should have done it this way.
Right, that definitely will be me. I'm already saying things like that back in my day. But y'all, you know, thank y'all so much for tuning in to the Rig on Wheels show. We are here for feedback. We definitely, Merrill and I want to know what you want to see, what you want to hear about, what you want on the show. So thanks for tuning in to the Rig on Wheels show featuring Hello Retention. We are here every Wednesday, 2 p.m. Central Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're just here. I can't wait for all the replays and the short and long clips, because this episode was really, really a joy for me. Don't forget to get Javon's book and read it. Tell us what you all think about it. Tell us what you all think about this episode, and we want to know what you want to see in the future, because we definitely want those insights so we can put it into the show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, when you want to talk about retention, you know, message me, call me. It doesn't send up smoke signals. I don't care how you get a hold of me, but at least have that conversation so you know you're going in the right direction. As I say last time, check everybody else out, but check us out. And I think you'll end up with us doing the work for you and helping your organization reduce its turnover and keep that valued employee that you want to keep.
Absolutely. Well, bye everybody, and we will see you next week, 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern.
Bye everybody.
Be safe.